Brother Rashid, you have, of course, left Islam, but there's one thing you cannot deny.
Okay.
And that is Islam's amazing impact on women. The Quran gives women unprecedented rights, and I've heard that Muhammad was practically the greatest feminist who ever lived.
Yeah.
And so obviously, if we look at the Quran, we're going to find out that the status of women was massively elevated thanks to this book. Is that right?
It's not right.
Not? Oh, my goodness, but I hear it all the time.
Yes, and they say also, like, it has a chapter about women.
It's got a chapter about women?
It has Mary there.
It's got an entire chapter. It actually names one woman in the entire Quran.
And that's a problem, actually. Why only one woman?
That is true.
Because when it talks about, there's no woman mentioned except Mary. Mary was already famous in the whole world back then. Name any woman. He named many men. He named Abu Lahab, he named Zayd, he named Luqman, he named Qarun, he named all these guys, but not a single woman. And he talks about the wife of Pharaoh, the wife of Al-Aziz, the wife of Lot, the wife of Noah, the wife of, you know, until today in the Arab world, we don't talk about our wives' names. We just say, my home, and they say about women, Ahmed, Muhammad, Mustafa, the mother of. Always we define her by a male. That's because of this culture. And when you think about it, why? Because it's not wholly to the level that we will put a name of a woman in the Quran.
They say Islam degrades women. They say the Quran barely mentions women by name. They say Islamic culture refuses to acknowledge women's identities. But what if I told you everything they said is a lie? Not only do they misrepresent Islam, but their argument falls apart under historical facts, logic, and even their own religious texts. And today we're going to prove it, step by step, with undeniable evidence. So, let's begin. David Wood and Rashid act as if naming women in the Quran is the standard for respect. Let's break down this flawed logic. The Quran names very few individuals, male or female. Out of 124,000 prophets in Islam, only 25 are named in the Quran. Where are their wives? Their daughters? Does that mean they were unimportant? Prophet Muhammad's own daughters, including Fatima, are not mentioned by name. Was she not honored in Islam? Of course she was. So what does Islam actually focus on? Not names, values. Think about it. Is your respect for your mother based on her name or based on her role in your life? The Quran honors women through status, not just names. And the proof? The one woman named in the Quran is actually mentioned more times than in the Bible. Let's talk about that. David Wood says the only woman named in the Quran is Mary, Maryam. And somehow this is a bad thing? Let's turn the tables. Mary, peace be upon her, is mentioned more times in the Quran than in the entire New Testament. In Christianity, Mary is portrayed as a mother, but in Islam, she is honored as one of the greatest women in history. In the Quran, 342, Allah directly elevates her status, saying, O Mary, indeed Allah has chosen you and purified you and chosen you above the women of the worlds. So let's get this straight. The only named woman in the Quran is actually given more honor and respect than in the Bible. Yet David Wood, a Christian, is somehow offended by this. Now let's go deeper. If Islam was truly degrading to women, then the laws in the Quran should reflect that, right? Wrong. Let's compare. Inheritance. Women inherit property, Quran 4:7. No clear inheritance rights for women. Divorce rights. Women can seek divorce, 29. Bible prohibits divorce, except for 19:9. Economic rights. Women can own and manage property, Quran 4:32. Women had no property rights in Christianity until modern laws. Original sin Eve is not blamed alone, Quran 2:36. Eve is the cause of the fall of man, Genesis 3:16. Let's pause for a second. David Wood and Rashid are telling us that Islam degrades women, yet every single law in Islam was centuries ahead of the Western world. If they really cared about women's rights, why don't they talk about how the Quran revolutionized women's status? because they don't care about the truth. Rashid claims that Arabs don't mention their wives' names, so Islam must have copied this tribal mentality. But here's the massive flaw in his argument. If Islam followed Arab tribal culture, women would have remained property of men. Yet Islam abolished female infanticide, Quran 81:8-9, while Arab culture considered daughters a burden. Islam gave women economic rights, while Arab culture denied them inheritance. Islam granted women the right to divorce, while Arab culture forced them into marriages. Islam didn't follow Arab culture. It destroyed its injustices. Here's the biggest irony. David Wood is a Christian apologist. If he wants to compare religions, let's do it fairly. In the Bible, women were considered property, Exodus 21:7. If a woman was raped, she had to marry her rapist, Deuteronomy 22:28-29. Paul commands women to remain silent in church and never have authority over men, 1 Timothy 2:11-12. Now compare this to Islam. Women in Islam have independent legal status. They can inherit, work, study, and choose their husbands. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "The best of you are those who are best to their women." So David, let me ask you, why are you ignoring your own religion's history? David Wood and Rashid's claim is nothing but deception. Islam didn't need to name women. It honored them through rights and laws. The Quran uplifted women's status centuries before the West did. The Bible and Christian history have far worse records on women's rights. So next time someone asks, does Islam degrade women? Tell them the truth. Islam honors, protects, and empowers women more than any other religious text in history. If you're tired of the lies against Islam, smash that like button. Comment below, what do you think about these claims? Subscribe for more truth and share this video with others.